So, our boy Sonic had quite an interesting day yesterday. For those of you unaware, they had a big Sonic Central presentation early in the morning, basically a Sonic Nintendo Direct, and it was a huge waste of time. Nothing new in terms of big announcements. Yeah, if you were more looking for something like a Sonic Unleashed remaster, you were probably disappointed. I mean, I'm sure some were incredibly excited about the new Pez dispensers and clothing lines, but I think most people were pretty let down by this. They had some teasers in there for stuff we already know about that really followed the gotta go fast theme of Sonic, because they were so quick, if you blinked, you might miss them. There was one for the upcoming animated series Sonic Prime. It was just Shadow zipping around, no real dialogue or context. But the Frontiers one, the tease of the Sonic Frontiers prologue, that was legit crazy. Like, I seriously thought something went wrong with the feed because of how quick it was and how nothing happened. I mean, for those of you who didn't watch this, here's the tease they showed for the Sonic Frontiers prologue in its entirety. Yeah, that hype you up for the game? Honestly, to me, everything yesterday kind of felt like last-minute, thrown-together damage control for the incredibly disappointing Sonic Frontiers previews we had been getting. Which, of course, we also did get yet another preview for Sonic Frontiers yesterday. I believe this is the 4th showcase now for Sonic Frontiers in about, a week and a half? Again, it just seems like after each one releases, they're just scrambling to put another one together to make up for it. I honestly can't make any sense of how they're choosing to show this game. It again just seems like a scramble. But yeah, I do think these previews have gotten better, just ever so slightly as we've gone on. In this latest preview, we got a little bit of a tease of the plot. Sonic, Tails, and Amy fly into a wormhole and end up on this mysterious island. So at least we know now that, some of the crew will be here in some capacity. The game is going to have skill trees, as was assumed by a lot of people after we started seeing some of the gameplay. And I'll even admit, I liked the new running section they showed, where it was like in the sky and you're running on this moving platform, looked like on the back of an enemy or something, and they got projectiles flying at you that you got to dodge out of the way. That actually looked like something that resembled a Sonic game. But overall, we're still seeing a lot of the same stuff, and obviously, I continue to have the same problems. I will note, you do have some people who have said they've turned around as we've gotten these various trailers released. Like, I have seen some people on Twitter being like, oh, if they would have just shown this latest preview first, everyone would love the game. There wouldn't be all this negativity. I think that's a huge stretch. Again, this was better, but many of the problems still persist. Some issues I actually feel are amplified now, like with the combat. When we got the first preview, it was just real quick cuts. Now these longer looks that we've gotten at the combat, to me it looks even less impressive with, the animations in that I criticized at the outset. Just looks all around clunky. The IGN reviewer, even in this latest showcase, mentioned at one point having issues fighting those big bosses that you have to run and climb up. He said there were bugs where Sonic would just randomly fly off. Yeah, that sounds awesome. All the visual problems obviously unchanged. The atrocious pop-in, they have to do something about this. When that latest video came out, almost immediately when the guy starts running, you see a floating platform pop up in the sky, just section by section as he runs past it. Just boop, boop, boop. Like I said in my last video, when this stuff is happening that close, it's incredibly distracting, obviously, for one, but I do think in a Sonic game, when you're going fast, this could potentially affect the gameplay, as, if stuff is popping in right when you get that close to it, it could screw up your flow of movement. And of course, the big thing mentioned here that many defenders of these previews are pointing towards is that the reviewer specifically said that this is an early build of the game. How often it feels like we have to do this. They put out these magic words, oh, this is an early build, this is pre-alpha, alpha, beta. People will jump to that like, hey, see, you can't judge anything in this. It's an early build. My dudes, these games take several years to make. If this game is not getting delayed, which people like me have said they should do, then it is coming out this holiday. Holiday 2022. We are in June, just about halfway through the year. How much do you think this game is going to change in the next 4 to 5 months? I mean, that's a serious question. You think we're going to be looking at something completely different with a few months to fix it up? And I've seen several people also try to say, oh, well, it's early as in it could be from a long time ago, several months perhaps. I doubt that. With these types of showcases, and I guess this is something a lot of people just don't get by the comments I've seen. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about the slim chance of why I think that could be possible. But in general, when it comes to showcasing your game, you're going to put your best foot forward. This section that they carved out for this demo to show us, I guarantee you they worked hard to get it looking as good as possible because it was the piece they were going to show off to us. Like, do people really think they just grabbed a random slice of the game like 5 months ago, sat on it, just said, yeah, we'll just show that when it comes around to E3 time, and just didn't pay it any mind until now, and then they just put this video out? Actually, I'm glad I mentioned E3, because if this was a typical year with the big E3 event, I could at least then see the argument of, well, they had to have this thing ready by this date. Maybe there was a bit of confusion and stuff wasn't ready, and, when it comes time for E3, you better have something to show. But this isn't a big E3 year. It's not like there was any outside, at least, pressure for them to have these previews, trailers, whatever, ready by these exact dates. It's like, if you needed a couple weeks, another month, whatever, there's no reason you could have taken it. I'm sure, Jeff Keighley with the Summer Games Fest thing coming up would have gladly, showcased Sonic during that. Like, this is at a time when you don't even have the excuse that, oh, well, you had to have something ready by E3. Because E3 didn't happen. And I want to be clear, I have nothing wrong with seeing an early build of a game and judging it as that. Because there are people, when I will say stuff like this, they'll be like, oh, well, that's why a lot of games don't show gameplay early, because people like you are going to act like it's all final. If this was a year or two ago, and we saw this gameplay, I'd be singing a different tune, because I'd be able to say, I think there are some solid ideas here, but it looks super rough, it looks like it needs a lot of work, but they still have time to do that work. In terms of what they're showing me now, for a game that, again, is supposed to launch in a few months, I do not feel that way. Even if they want to say, oh, this is an early build, this game is certainly not early in development. And in terms of the media person from IGN, kind of waving a lot of this off, people mention also in this video preview that he says, like, oh, the open world thing feels like it can work and all that. He does still mention, there are these issues with the pop-in and some of the bugs in that, but overall, he has a positive outlook. That's another thing people are pointing to. With that, I mean, I don't know. Do I really have to give you guys a crash course in the meaning of access media in gaming? As in, all their coverage revolves around maintaining their access to things like this? Getting to host these exclusive first looks at a game? I mean, do you really think, this is another serious question, do you really think IGN, after Sega gave them this opportunity to be the first ones to showcase gameplay from this new AAA Sonic game, do you really think they were going to come out and say, this really sucked, it looks bad, it's glitchy, a buggy mess, and they should delay it? I mean, do you think that was ever even a possibility? Again, honest question. And if you say yes, of course, the media, they're always so honest with us. With all of these disastrous games that come out, and many of them got early looks like this, when has that ever happened? When has one of these big media outlets come out early on and say, yeah, we got hands-on with this game and it absolutely sucks? It doesn't happen. Because again, they're not going to risk losing that access. Instead, they're going to downplay those negative aspects, still mention them, but also not come off like overly excited. Again, while this reviewer said he overall liked his experience, it wasn't like he was like, oh, this is mind-blowing, this is the future of Sonic is here, and all that. That didn't happen either. You got to read between the lines a little bit. And like I also said in my previous video, it's not like we're talking about a franchise that is regularly hitting it out of the park. In fact, I think if we were taking bets on whether or not the next 3D Sonic game would be good or suck, I mean, even before ever seeing anything about it, the odds would heavily be on suck, because that's how they tend to turn out. And again, when it comes to the people putting this together, it's not like they don't know all that before they decide to show us something. They know when it comes to 3D Sonic, people are going to be hesitant, and they still chose to show us this. It's insane. Again, it feels like a lot of cope to me, seeing people grasp at these straws like we haven't heard this all a million times before. It's an early build. Yeah, the first gameplay we saw of a game that comes out in a few months. I'm sure it's just the earliest of early builds, pre-alpha. I see that word tossed around all the time now. But this is pre-alpha footage to be like, yeah, it's extra super early. Yeah, I'm sure that's the kind of stuff they chose to show us again a few months out from the full release. And don't get me wrong, I would love that to be the case, right? I don't want this game to be bad. I would much prefer it to be good. But to basically be looking at me with a straight face and be like, yeah, ChiGuy, everything you're seeing isn't real, okay? So don't judge it. That's not... What your eyes are telling you is just not the reality. I'm sorry. I can't get on board with that. If this game, I will say, if it turns out there was a bunch of awesome stuff they were hiding, chose not to show, and the game itself is actually great, I'll be happy about that. But then they need to immediately fire whoever set all these previews and that up. Their marketing team, whoever is responsible, because these showcases overall, I think, were a monumental failure. I think the hype from this game, regardless of where you're sitting on the fence right now, after the multiple previews we've seen, I don't think you could argue that the hype overall hasn't gone down. And obviously the first big one that mostly received negative feedback was the one most people were going to watch. Like when you get that first big chunk of gameplay, that's what most people are going to check out. Not necessarily the second and the third and so on and so forth. And that is one thing I will say before I close to sort of side with people who I think are kind of coping, grasping at straws. The one thing I will say, looking at how awful this preview rollout has been handled, even at looking what a complete waste of time that Sonic Central was, while it would seem almost impossible, if there was a group of people so incompetent that they could have a good game on their hands and just royally screw up the presentation of it, it would be these people that are deciding how we're seeing Frontiers, that set up that abysmal Sonic Central presentation. It's a slim chance again, but I think it is possible these people could take something good and manage to present it in a way that looks like shit. They are that stupid. With how bad things have been handled, how much they've made it seem like they're just scrambling to put something together to salvage this whole thing, I can't 100% rule that out. It might be only like a 1% chance that that turns out being the case, but I can't say it's impossible. I do believe these people are that incompetent. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on all this Sonic Frontiers and the big Sonic Central showcase in the comments. What do you think, of course, about Sonic Frontiers so far? Are you coming around as we've gotten the third and fourth previews of the game? Are you still worried about it like me? Do you believe there's that possibility that these people are just so stupid that they're giving us a bad look at what's going to turn out to be a good game? As always, I'm the Shy Guy, Johnny Zakari, and thanks for watching.